Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Friend Code. I'm your host, Michael Damiani. On this episode, I'm joined by Matt Simmons of Yo Video Games again. How's it going, dude?
Hey man, what's up?
To our listeners and viewers, earlier this week, just had some scheduling conflict stuff come up. Fortunately, original thing kind of fell through. So, Matt is being very gracious and stepping in here to talk a little bit about the Kirby and the Forgotten Land demo that just came out. I mean, not just, I mean, shortly ago. But we both went through it, and we're going to talk about it in a sec. I was curious. There's like a little bit of like small news. I think with Nintendo. The only thing kind of headline that happened today is we found out that Advance Wars Reboot Camp's being delayed because Nintendo's being conscientious of what's happening in the world and is like, let's delay this indefinitely. So unfortunately, it will not be coming out on April 8th, 2022. We expect an update probably later this year at some point about when it'll come out
Yeah.
again.
Um,
I mean, the right thing to do, showing some kind of support
yeah,
for
yeah.
Ukraine. Yeah,
And a lot of people are kind of like, well, why this game? Because it still has like a month to go. Why this game and why were they okay with? I mean, I've heard triangle strategy brought up. Was it technically that square? But I think it's something to be. I think what was good about this decision is that it's sort of like the optics and tone of Advance Wars, because Advance Wars is a very light game. Number one, it is a game. It is a game about strategic military tactics, and wars, Advance Wars. But it has like this super light tone to the whole thing, and like the enemy characters, the enemy army in the game have a very frankly Russian look to them, especially in the second game. So it's just bad optics.
yeah, you're right.
And,
And
and I
it's
don't think it's like, because some people, and again, like what about all these other games? And I'm like, I think a lot of it just has to do with how sort of like lightly and kind of like colorfully it treats a pretty serious situation that's going
yeah,
on.
it
Like if this, if it's the middle of the '90s, this game, it's fine, whatever. But it just really is sort of a really sort of just poor timing. You know,
Yeah,
it.
it's the game also kind of has that unfortunate history as well because the original game's release date was literally one day before September 11th,
Yeah, September 10th, and
2000.
apparently it did
Yeah,
get bumped back because of that in Japan
in
and Europe.
Japan and Europe, it got bumped back. So this game is something that people are hoping gets like a second life because of this remaster release of it, and could lead to future things. So
You
it
know what
is
though?
unfortunate timing, but
There's a lot. I mean, it's not like Nintendo's hurting for content. They have two. They had like the deal with Triangle Strategy, and they have Kirby, which we're going to talk about that. And they also have Nintendo Switch Sports in April.
yeah.
May's blank. I don't know how far they're thinking of pushing this back. Mario Kart DLC is about to come out. June's super packed. Splatoon's got some point. I could easily see this game. There's a lot of like sort of like, okay, well, we don't really know what's going on in July and August technically. We know Splatoon's summer, so whatever month Splatoon 3 is not, this could fill in there later. It could be, there's a lot of places it could go. So um I guess the good news is that it's not, because they already had to delay it once, and that's sort of
Yeah,
like the really
and it
unfortunate
was
part is that.
funny. You know what happened the last time it was delayed as well? That same day, a state of play.
Oh, really?
And I know this from Good Vibes Gaming because they tweeted out today, like, "Wow, we called the news 4 months ago when it happened." So
Oh
the
no,
same day it was
gosh.
delayed. There was a state of play
Oh
that day as
man.
well. There was a state of play today that we're recording as
There's
well.
some weird
Yeah,
coincidences, but it's I know it really sucks for fans of that series, who obviously were probably really looking forward to jumping back in, but I think it's the right call.
yeah,
It
and
just it's
they'll
not good
understand.
optics.
Any kind of
Uh
rational fan will understand it. Like people's lives are more important, and showing support
yeah,
for
it
that is
just
much more important. In the games, it's going to come out at some point. It'll
it just
you'll
does
get
that
to
just
enjoy it.
doesn't look good right now. It just
Yeah,
really doesn't look good right now. But you know, uh, on a brighter, I guess, lighter note, Kirby's not getting laid because, well, it's Kirby, and it just
yeah,
brings nothing but like good vibes and sunshine, and you
That
know.
is very true, and I think that's one of the strong points of this game. Having played the demo now, this is a game when it was first announced, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I was very excited for, and I'm not generally excited for Kirby games. I'm not a big Kirby
Mm.
fan. I generally don't really play them. I'm not really into them. But the trailer for this one made it look like kind of a watershed moment for Kirby becoming a 3D platformer potentially. As we now know after playing the demo, it's not really going for that. It is something a little bit different, but there was some
Hmm.
concern initially when the demo released about, oh, it's not going for Odyssey or 3D platformer, it's something else. People kind of freaked for a
It's
little
much
bit,
closer to,
and
to 3D World.
yeah, and then you play it, and then like all my fears were alleviated. Yeah, sure, it's not a giant 3D platformer, but at the same time, it is still really enjoyable, and I had a fun time with it, and I am very much looking forward to the full game now. And I'm very glad they put this
Yeah.
demo out. Yeah.
I from the first trailer and even the second one, I kind of thought there were a couple key shots where I was like, okay, I felt like I knew exactly what I was getting. Where I'm like, this is going to be one of those things where it's kind of like it's 3D, but the camera kind of stays in kind of one spot, and you'll have like
Hmm.
very minimal amount of being able to move it left or right, and that's exactly what we got. And I feel, okay, so I wasn't really sort of like shocked or anything by of any bit of how the demo actually played, because I was like, yeah, this is kind of exactly what I expected. It's kind of much more of a guided, tailored experience, and it works. I think the only, yeah, like I'm trying to think of like the only like actual kind of fears I may or may not have had was, um, I guess maybe just sort of collision detection, because 2D to 3D is so different, but it seems like they handled it really well. Like it doesn't seem like, oh, is it weird to try to like suck up an enemy in 3D versus 2D where it's just right, left to right. No, there's really no problems issues there. It does definitely seems like he's taken a bit of a stuff from like the 3DS games where he gets like a really big wide like
Yeah.
area to like so like you never really, it doesn't feel off. That's kind of like the big nice thing is it doesn't feel off or awkward, to
Yeah,
be
it
transitioning.
felt pretty good to play. That was kind of my concern, was that having a fixed camera, it might have some problems that are generally associated with platforming and fixed cameras in a 3D space. And while you can tilt the camera a little bit, like up or down or left and right, it's like just like a subtle movement. It's not like you don't rotate the camera like you said 3D World. It's like not even like that. It's just like
Yeah.
slight tilts. I found myself, yeah, the same thing. I like was not really having any trouble with like Kirby sucking up enemies to absorb their powers, to shoot out things at targets. Like was really not having a problem with that. And I think they actually do some pretty delightful stuff with the camera work at times, like how they spin around some things to reveal what's going on, like
Yeah.
behind a building, or like in the mall part where they pan through the mall and rotate the camera. It's nice. They did take that into consideration, and it's part of the presentation, and it works pretty well, I feel like.
I think the biggest change that I can actually honestly think of is the fact that you don't. I don't want to say the game's not, because we only play the demo,
Yeah.
but it does seem like it's a lot less. There's a lot less verticality, but the biggest
Yeah.
change is that Kirby doesn't go up. You can't like just mash, jump and he'll just fly upwards. He has a maximum height from any given platform, and he can kind of float indefinitely from whatever the initial jump point is. So he can't. It's not like you're getting quadruple, quintuple jumps or whatever. It's just no. You jump from the whatever. You have to get up to the highest platform, right? And you can hover. You can mash jump to like fly around, but not fly up. Just fly level to the height of your jump, which is the biggest change I think overall with it. So, but that does lead to some interesting secrets in a way. Where,
Yeah.
where like there was the blue coin thing that someone found.
I didn't see that
Where you,
one.
so like yeah, like in the level, there's a part where you turn into a vending machine, you blow open a wall, and you go up, and it's just a very quick little like, hey, here's a room full of a bunch of coins, and you go up, the ladder in the back of the room, and it kind of just is this. It's basically just like a little like alternate route going forward. But he jumped off the building and flew backwards for a long way and found this big blue coin on the top of another building.
Oh wow. So it wasn't even
Because you
one of
got
the optional objectives. It was just like a hidden secret.
It was totally hidden, and
Oh
we don't even
wow.
know we don't even know what it's really meant for, other than just to give you a whole lot of
Oh.
coins. But the idea is kind of interesting because it's like,
Yeah.
remember, he can fly, just not upwards, but
Yeah,
you
horizontally he can
can
like hover.
imagine going back the way you're not really told to go, kind of thing. So um
Hmm.
I still think there'll definitely going to be a lot of fun little secrets like that, with the flying ability, even though it's not necessarily vertical this time. It's more just, okay, remember, if you get to a certain height point, try flying around to a different area. You might find something. So
Yeah, the secret stuff and encouraging you to kind of like spend extra time and just like search around every nook and cranny benefited this because as you saw every level had like extra objectives like getting all the red
yeah,
tulips like stuff like
I like
that.
that. I like that too,
And I
because
like that because of the game might seem a little linear
mhm.
to some people's liking, but having those extra objectives makes it feel like you're doing meaningful stuff, or at least you have some illusion of I'm searching around and like trying to explore, even though it's like a straightforward path,
And it
it's
didn't
enough for me.
seem and it didn't seem like forced. It seemed very casual. I mean, it should be, it's a Kirby game.
Yeah.
But like it didn't seem, it wasn't like, the sort of dreaded DK64 thing of like, here's 3,000 collectibles, try to
Yeah,
find all the
not overbearing whatsoever.
specifically, but whatever. It's like, okay, like you run over a tulip, and all of a sudden, like, a little tiny thing, hey, make 5 tulips bloom. It's just kind of like, it's just kind of there. And then when you beat the level, it actually shows you all the, because I don't know if it's going to be like this in the final game, because all we have to go off is the demo. But like, the objectives are not known, like the bonus objectives. They're not known until you accidentally stumble upon them, or you reach the end of the level, and then it tells you
It's
what all the
probably
objectives
like how Captain
were.
Toad does it because it has like when you beat the level, it gives you like things checklist of things you could have done as
Yeah.
well in Captain Toad. So I imagine it'll probably be when you beat the level, if you didn't encounter any of those optional things, it'll now tell you you could have gone and
Yeah.
done this. So
and
it's
and, and
replayability. It's replayability.
I wonder if it's done sort of to not overwhelm the player. And I don't even know, because
Probably.
I didn't see it. But like, say you never touched any of the red tulips, would the bonus objective be just a question mark at the end of the level? Like, hey, there's bonus things to do. You just
Oh,
haven't. You
I
just don't
think
know what it is yet.
I think
Who knows?
it'll probably yeah we'll see. I don't think it's gonna be like that or it just keeps it completely a secret. I think the nature of a Kirby game is we'll let you know and like go
Although
on the
to
easier
be
side. It's gonna be
fair,
on the easier side.
this does harken back a little bit to the lesser played Kirby's Dream Land 3, which is on the Nintendo Switch Online. And that is such a weird game, because you're going it level by level, and at the end of every level there's like always like one NPC character who just stands in front of a door at the very end, and then there's a hidden objective. Like, with
Okay.
the trick to Kirby's Dream Land 3 is, like, in one of like the first level, it's something to do with the flowers. Again, it's either make them bloom or water or something. I can't remember what it is, but it's like, when you get to the end of the first level, and you always go into this one room with an NPC who's just standing there kind of blankly. One of them is Samus in one level. But yeah, it's like
Cool.
every single level has some alternatives, like hidden objective to complete. You get a little, like, mark on the world map on the level when you do it correctly. um so it's kind of weird, but that game is very bizarre because it doesn't really tell you anything. It's all just sort of like very much figure it out on your own.
It's also
Very
probably a
vague.
product of its time too.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Although, that, man, it was a late Super NES game. I came out like 98 or something crazy
Oh
like
wow,
that.
that
It's
is
it's
pretty
a
late. Yeah.
it was 97 or 98 or something. It was after the N64 was out. Like, it was like the last first party game in North America.
Let me ask you real quick. We're talking about something like the design and the mechanics a little bit. Let me ask you about how you felt it looked, because I know that was when it comes to Switch games and presentation and graphics, there's
Hmm.
that's always going to come up. I played this exclusively in handheld on my Switch OLED, and I was actually kind of surprised by how good it looked in handheld mode.
Yeah.
But I will say this before I let you go here: the opening cutscene did make me wish, man, I wish Switch had visuals. Like I wish it just looked like this, but
Yeah.
this is nice too.
That was actually going to be kind of my point, was that, like, I think it
Yeah.
looks really good, actually. Like Star Allies, it's a little unfortunate that, like, it doesn't hit 60 frames like Mario Odyssey did. Um,
Yeah.
but it does look very nice. But yeah, it sort of undercut the fact that it does look pretty nice for a Switch game. It undercuts it with an FMV at the very beginning, which showing you a CG intro, which looks really, really, really good, and you're like, I
Although,
wish.
what would you think about the sound design? Like, it was like no sound effects. It was just like music for the CG. I saw some people
Yeah,
who
I
played
don't
it
know if
complaining about that, but I don't know if it's just a demo and it's not the final version, or if the final version is actually going to have sound effects in the cinematics. It was,
not that I would care that much, but
yeah,
like
it didn't bother me
it
that
it
much.
it did have an air of like just here's trailer. Like you kind of see that with like trailers on YouTube or directs or whatever, where it's just kind of like random footage and stuff like that, and or sometimes it's just dialogue sort of like not in sync, but just kind of like overlaid, as they're playing cutscenes. Like Xenoblade 3 did
Yeah.
that with the latest trailer. Like the characters are like the sound bits are going over parts and other scenes that are not related to what they're saying. Like it's sort of like mix and match. So yeah, it had that sort of like online trailer vibe to it, I guess you could say, where I'm just like, hey, it's this, footage which will be different. You normally expect when you're playing like the game itself rather than watching, a Nintendo Direct, it would be different. But I barely even noticed that, to be honest. Like, I think I was just so focused, not focused, but like kind of just like, oh, okay, yeah, because you're talking about like the part where like he gets sucked into the vortex, right?
Yeah, the
And
beginning.
it's all like that, and I'm just kind of like, all right, here we go. Here's the start of the game, which is actually secretly related to the E ending route from Drakengard 1, which caused, a
I
split in
see
the hole
where.
in the
Oh,
wait.
yeah, you
There is
wish.
okay. There is a weird okay, I am not the only person who has made this connection,
Uh-oh,
but
what are
there's
we
there's
going?
so many weird, funny kind of like because it's like this cutesy Kirby version of so many near automata areas.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's
with the
dystopian.
overgrown city, the mall, the amusement park.
I mean, it's
There's the
Japanese
desert part in the
dystopia.
trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on here? So, I thought it was kind of funny, but like, what really started to not weird me out, but just kind of like, oh, okay, some people, and you know who, Wooly, are gonna have a field day with some of the gachapons have like really detailed descriptions,
Yes,
and I got
yes.
this
The
gachapon where it's
capsule
like
toys.
it's a
Yeah.
capsule toy of a billboard for the whatever, I forget the name of corporation. It was like the new Neo Light Corporation, and they're like it goes into this detailed history of how this corporation used to have cover all aspects, and then it was like split up, and then it went out of business at some point. I'm like, what? There's this detailed explanation for this more or less Shinra Corporation style thing in the past that is now gone or something. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, okay, I was joking about about that weird sort of like near automata stuff. Like, I didn't think you'd actually start putting in like detailed descriptions of corporate backstory into a Kirby game. It's I'm all for it because it's not like overbearing or anything. It's just kind of like funny that one of the capsule toys you get, they have all these detailed history of the new stuff in the new world, or the
Sorry, I was
forgotten
trying
land,
to
if
boot
you
up, see
will.
if you can like look at them after you've collected them, and I don't think in the demo it allows you to review them after you got them. Because I was gonna try and bring it up and read it again too,
Oh,
but
really?
yeah. But I mean, that's one of the things. Like beyond like the demo, this demo includes like the trailer. I don't know if it's the same as like the features overview trailer also released recently that shows you like more of the stuff you're going to be able to do in the final game. One of them they do unlock when you beat the demo after you beat all the boss. The three segments of the demo is you get the power up abilities. I don't know if you get to try that out, but one of them, like you said, one of the
Yes,
first
like
copy things you get is the sword swing. The enhanced one you get in the demo when you replay level 1, when you suck up that first night enemies, you get the long sword. So the sword just has like longer reach.
yeah, you
But
get
like
like
evolving your abilities is going to be another thing in this game. But let me ask you about the demo, like the abilities they showed off. Did you like them? What'd you think of them? Especially the the crazy stuff that Kirby sucking up a car, Kirby sucking up a safety cone, Kirby sucking up a
so
vending
like the
machine,
mouthful mode yet
the
stuff.
Malfo
Yeah.
mode stuff. Yeah.
Um, it's just weird because like Kirby's such a cartoon character, so they kind of it feels like they play around with his abilities like in different ways. Like there was one of the 3DS games he could like they would just full on embrace like the whole like Kirby's a black hole, right? And like he could eat the universe if he wanted to kind of thing. But yeah, and then it's so strange that this one is like now if he eats like a car or a vending machine, he just wraps around it because it's like the object's so big or
You
whatever.
can't. Yeah.
um
It's
very
yeah.
very strange to me. I have that thing here. Anyways, if you want, I can actually read it. I pulled it
Yeah.
up.
Go ahead. Yeah, you got it. Nice.
So I got a gotcha in the game for the Lytron Works sign. The Lytron Works company was a massive corporation that invested in research and development within all kinds of fields: electro, bio, astro, and more. Lytron eventually split up, giving rise to many rival companies and countless heated corporate battles. I'm not kidding you.
Dude,
This,
that's great.
this is what I got in the game. The Lytron Works sign.
This is
Um,
this is gonna be a good story in this game. I can tell now. Way deeper than most. I don't know the story of most Kirby games, I'll admit, but this already seems deeper than anything I've been teased.
okay, so the most interesting thing is that like it's definitely it was started in jest and fun, but then it as people kind of looked into it, one of like the main Kirby lead designer directors or whatever artists, he actually really truly loves eldritch horror and cosmic horror,
Oh, here we
like
go.
actually on his own free time. And some of his drawings have made it in to Curry. He curbified and cutified some of his cosmic horror drawings that he has on like on his own personal blog or website or whatever. One of them is like marks from one of the Super NES Superstar Saga. I think Superstar Saga. He was a boss in Ultimate. But yeah, like he's actually truly into that weird cosmic horror stuff, and he makes cute versions for Kirby games. I don't think you probably shouldn't read any deeper into it than that. I feel.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because Kirby's just a cartoon character. Like the whole thing with like the car is just kind of like, okay, Kirby's stretched over the top of the car and you just drive around his car. It's so weird that he doesn't just turn into like a Kirby car, but like he covers the full giant. So it makes things a little different because it shifts the gameplay a bit, because it's not like, oh, you turn into like a small Kirby sized version.
Yeah.
You're now like you're now it's more it's a lot like Mario Odyssey, I have to say, where it's kind of like, oh, you throw the hat on the frog and you turn into the frog, or whatever, and in some of the bigger objects you turn into those objects. It feels very Odyssey in that sense with the mouthful mode. Some of the most fun things I've tried to do is that like sometimes you get unique animations, because there's a wave and a sit down button when Kirby's normal. And most of the hats he wears.
Oh yeah.
His wave and like his wave like button up on the D-pad, it changes if you're the car or the cone. The vending machine did not have a unique animation for waving or sitting down, but that might just be a demo thing. But I thought that was kind of interesting and funny and cute. It's kind of one of those things that feels like, as adults, we're going to overthink the mouthful mode, but a kid is just going to love it. They're just going to laugh and think it's great and have a good time. And like, it's kind of one of those things where I kind of, it reminds me of a quote. I forget which famous comic book author said this, where someone was like, the problem with adults in comic book movies is they sit there and like, well, how can Batman really live life as a billionaire tycoon and also go and fight around? What is the science behind Superman flying? Like, how does how does yellow star radiation really work? And he's like, and a kid doesn't sit there and think about it. He's just like, he's Superman because he flies, whatever.
So true.
Like, and I think that's kind of a little bit here where like everyone's going to overthink the mouthful mode stuff, and I'm like, and a kid will just be like, it's Kirby. He eats stuff and he turns into stuff. Like there's just like there's no reason to overthink
I
you know,
think in the moment, most people aren't even going to overthink it, even adults in this. But like, I get it. Like after the fact, some veteran fans will be like, so why did it work this way when it worked in that way? And like, they're definitely. It's funny, Simmons. There are YouTube content creators dedicated to literally what you just described about explaining why something like scientifically why this is bad. The most recent one I watched was I forgot his face. Did why you wouldn't want teleportation as a power, and did Nightcrawler from X-Men, and how it's like one of the most dangerous powers to you as a person that you're probably gonna die using it unless you go like maybe if you teleport within like 1 kilometer or less you'll be fine, but any longer distance it's like the planet moves around in space, like how you get like account for it, plus your velocity, like all these crazy science things that are real. It's like it would not work, it would just not work, and like but it's like we like it, we don't care, it's like it looks cool, like who cares? Same thing with Kirby. Like mouthful mode is just like a crazy thing that looks insane and it's fun to play. Like driving around as a car and like just like jumping over ramps and like flooring it and like running through stuff, or the cone like smashing pipes and like going up water geysers to raise up, and then like the soda can, they're just like, let me just shoot out soda cans or at people as enemies, and like the overview trailer gives you hints at a few other ones, and yeah, it's just more of that creativity. It's like, as you said, it's lighthearted, and it's definitely meant to be, not taken at face value. Just kind of like enjoy it.
Yeah, it's definitely not one of those things where it's like, well, if the DeLorean time travels back in time, it has to go to a specific time that matches it because the Earth will be on a different part of its solar rotation. So if you went back at a different time of year, your car would end up in space just floating. It's like, or it's a movie. Actually, one of my favorite. I mean, apologies to your other coworkers here, but as much as I didn't like the game for Shenmue 3, I did love an interview Yu Suzuki gave about Shenmue 3 right before the game came out, where, someone was like, how does Ryo Suzuki, how's he going to know how to speak, rural countryside dialect, in mainland China if he's just a teenage Japanese high school student? He's like, because it's a video game.
There you go.
And that was the answer. I was like, the greatest answer. I'm like, well, it's just, because it's a video game, and I'm not going to sit here and worry about did Ryo spend enough time studying not only like Mandarin and Cantonese, but like rural country dialects that would really trip someone up who wasn't really devoted to studying like the intricacies. No, it's a video game. Like, it's like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I get there's like an appeal and like some people are drawn to that type of stuff, but there's also like a point where I think they can go overboard and like you just take it too far, and like how can you enjoy anything if that's just like the way you think about everything? It must be like a curse. You know what? It's like the curse with knowledge. Thanos' line to like Tony, "You're not the only one cursed with knowledge." It's like it sucks. Like some people just they can't undo it. It's how they are. So they go into a movie. Like imagine every time we see like a sci-fi film about like space, an actual like, someone from NASA goes to watch it, like, oh my, like how can they sit through bullshit? They're like, this is my career, my job, and you're like, it might be a good story, but like when it comes to the science part, they're like, bullshit. Yeah, exactly. They just like they can't, like it's not, so it's not fair to like criticize everyone does it, but like at the same time, like when you're just like a Kirby game, there's like no real, like I get it, like there might be Kirby lore and like this is contradicting it, but like in terms of like it's okay, you can let it go. It's like it's a video game, and it's like this isn't, it's a fantasy thing. You can let your mind suspend disbelief.
Yeah, the only thing I think people be like, well, how come like they're gonna try to like compare it to other Kirby games, like Kirby acted different, or Kirby could like, he could inhale, like, because like I mean I've seen it from one of the games where like there's this literally massive building size eel that he like sucks up and eats the whole thing, and it just disappears, in his mouth because it's Kirby. And it's like, well, it's just how they designed that game. But I think it's actually kind of fun in a way, because it's a lot like Odyssey in the sense of like, okay, what else can my hat attach to? What, and with Kirby, the demo's very guided, so it kind of tells you right away what you can and can't. Like, eat this vending machine, eat this cone, eat this. I don't know what it is. It's like a big round plate on the top of a building to open it up.
Yeah.
But like the game like straight up just tells you, eat this, you can eat this. And I'm wondering, I'm kind of hoping even in the final game, like it's maybe not as as straightforward where it tells you you can turn into eat this. This is one thing you can turn into. I actually hope it's a little bit closer to like, I wonder if I can or can. You try and you can't. Maybe sometimes you do it where it's like a surprise, like express
Yeah.
mechanic.
I'm sure they'll have some of that because you said like that even that blue coin thing, which is for more for exploration. They probably will have maybe an like an unprompted ability that triggers something to access a part of an area that was a hidden area for
Mm-hmm.
that. I can imagine they could possibly do that. I'm definitely curious what you think about the kind of like Kirby games are generally like easy, and this game doesn't
Yeah.
even have game overs. I had to read what the penalty was for actually dying. If you die, you lose 100 of your star coins. So
Mm.
you just respawn right there and lose 100 coins. So it's going for that, and it also has a co-op mode, which is nice because like that's the spirit of Kirby games. Kirby games, a lot of Kirby games in recent years have had that kind of co-op angle. So
Yeah.
it's nice that they're allowing you play as a bandana Waddle Dee. Looking it
Yeah.
up right now, yeah, that's who it is. But yeah, like even because they offer two difficulty settings, they have like the like the spring breeze and the wild.
Yeah.
No, yeah, the wild mode, and even on wild mode, it was just like, oh, this is not really that hard, but it didn't bother me. Like I know basically the thing I'm trying to ask you, Sam, is like there are people who get upset when a game is too easy. But like I think Kirby, this game might. That's not the point of this game. Is a challenge. I feel like.
Yeah. Kirby needs a die-hard difficulty mode as much as Elden Ring needs an easy mode. Because I can throw that argument, the developer's vision argument, right back in everyone's face on this. I'm like, this is and has always been the developer's vision at how with Kirby. It's not meant to be a super hard game. Um and you would be quote unquote messing with the vision if you wanted to have some. I mean, they have difficulty modes, but though, like you said, like wild mode is like pretty easy still.
Yeah,
I
it's
will
fine.
say this: I remember years ago, oh gosh, it's 12 years now. E3 2010, where they had Kirby's Epic Yarn, and there was like, there's no lives, there's no death. There's actually
Yes,
no death
yeah, I
in the
remember
game.
this.
And I remember, some people were like, "What, what is the point? Now you're going too easy now. Like, what's the point of even playing?" But like, the whole thing is in Epic Yarn, all the little gems and jewels and studs you collect, they fly out of you like Sonic when you get hit, and you get sort of like a sort of grading at the end of the level over how many, little gems you've collected, because every hit, you're going to lose some, and it weirdly became like it became more. It was weirdly, it was more dire. It was more, for me, it was like I was more interested in not getting hit, because this it created this weird like FOMO, or just sort of like, I don't know, like this weird like pack rat mentality where it's like, no, I can't lose any of all the gems I've collected. So in the same way, it could be the same way with this with the coins in this, where it's like, no, I want the coins for Waddle Dee Town. So like you're gonna get like, it becomes even more. You become more obsessed with not getting hit than if you had a life bar and lives, because it's like, no, I must end the level with like, this Scrooge McDuck money hoard of money. So in a weird sort of way, it's like, okay, well, you're not dying, you're not losing lives, you're not getting game overs or whatever, and you're not returning to the, your lost side of Kirby Grace or whatever. But all of a sudden, just having this sort of like in-game economy that like, you don't want to lose that stuff, like that can create almost a greater sense of wanting to never get hit than if it did have just normal life bars and health bars and whatever. So
Yeah, I remember people saying that's how they like created the difficulty for those games was they didn't, they wanted to keep all what they'd collected. But it's funny that you point out like that when I came out, because I'm trying to remember what was like one of the earlier Nintendo games. Was the original New Super Mario Brothers? Was it Wii? The first one I introduced like the easy mode, like golden mushroom type thing. If you died too many times, it was the
yeah,
DS Wii era when it happened. Was the first one. I'm trying to remember what was the first game that did
I
it. But
don't know which
that was like a hot topic around that generation, and that's when Kirby Epic Yarn came out. Was in the Wii. Like Nintendo was getting accused of like you're making, why are you doing all this easy stuff, like make people play your games, and like the whole topic of the should there be more options, should you know that came up in in this period.
I
So
remember that, and a lot of games did, like Epic Yarn. I'm pretty sure.
God of War
No, no,
freaking
no,
asked you if you died enough, do you want to go to very easy? I mean, it was making fun of you, but like even like that
no.
was like, do you just want to like get past this part? It's like,
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't remember which. I want to say New Super Mario Brothers Wii might have been the first one to go full on. If you die too much, we'll give you the
yeah.
golden leaf or the golden mushroom or
The
the
game
golden
also did just a
tanuki.
super guide, which allows a player to watch a
Super guide.
computer-controlled character complete a level. So that was
I
New Super Mario's
remember.
Wii. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember Donkey Kong Country Returns, same
Yep.
year as Epic Yarn, had that as well, where you get
Yep.
like this like like I think it was like a white Diddy and Donkey Kong, like they're all like white and yellow. They'll play the level for you if they won't collect anything. They'll just beat the level for you. And some people were really upset about that, and it was gone by Tropical Freeze. Although there's just one of those weird things still with those games, because like people have said that the returns in Tropical Freeze are hard, and I'm like, what? How?
For some, I mean, that's the thing.
And then for some people, it really is.
And then some people find like Souls games is actually not hard, but then they'll find like a platformer hard because just like it's a different skill set.
That's actually the interesting thing, is because like it's almost like it's not about skill. It's about like what do you attune to, like in a way. Now Kirby doesn't really have this problem. I think like even if you're bad at platformers, I think you'll do fine at Kirby.
Yeah, it's very light on that.
It is interesting to see like someone who's an absolute pro. He's like someone who can slay another genre, and then they come to like Donkey Kong and they're just like, I can't do it, I don't know how to. I'm like, whoa. It's like it's kind of one of those weird things where like what might come naturally to some people will be completely foreign to others.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a pro at this genre, but when you put me in here, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's really funny. But Kirby, I feel, is a great bridge game, because Kirby is like it is that easy usually. Like it's meant to be. It's meant to be a super laid back game. And then with the gems and Epic Yarn, I'm assuming the star coins in this one. I didn't die, so I don't even know.
Star coins.
Until you told me.
Yeah.
I didn't know you lose coins or whatever. Yeah. I mean, okay, cool. I get it. I feel like that's going to be the same deal, where it's like, I don't want to lose those. Man, I really don't want to lose those coins.
Yeah, because so you had to buy the capsules.
Yeah, so I'm going to do everything in my power not to lose any coins. I'm going to try to collect as much as I can every level. So I actually can see where that'll become like almost a better solution than having pointless lives. Because in a day and age when you have save files, what's the point of lives? Unless you want to have that sort of classic, old school or arcade video game mode where it's like, we're going to give you 5 lives or whatever, 3 lives plus whatever 1-ups you find. But if you run out of all your lives, game over, kind of deletes your save. You go back to the start. Like, you have to do a 1-run mode or something. Yeah. Something like that, maybe.
Man,
like a no save, hardcore mode. That's the only way you could even do it. Like, lives have no purpose. Lives are basically microtransactions at the end of the day. Like games were made to be hard, not because the developers wanted you to be. Yeah. Like the developers of the old school days, like they didn't want to mold you into some great gamer. They didn't care about that. They wanted you to suck at these games.
It was an evolution of arcades, because
you being good, you being good at video games in the late '80s is not what any of the companies wanted. They wanted you to be bad,
so
and they wanted you to keep putting quarters. Like being good at a video game was a detriment to these video game companies.
Go watch Wayne's World, everyone. Go watch Wayne's World and watch the beginning about the bit about Noah's Arcade, where he talks about the game. He goes, but that's the kicker, the second level. They can't beat the guy. So the kids keep pumping in all the quarters and they love it. It's like, that was it. And like that, when they started to make home console games, they just did what they knew, and it took time for them to evolve. So like lives are a dated concept.
And then rentals actually freaked them out. Nintendo tried to bring this up in court. I mean, this is not going to sound good for a lot of like, if you're a Nintendo fan, but yes, Nintendo tried to make it illegal to rent video games in the United States and lost. How they lost is actually really funny, but yeah, like, and because they lost going into the Super NES and Genesis era, remember how games were really unnaturally hard? Like say the Lion King or Dynamite Headdy or stuff like that. And they've actually come out and admitted like
Star Wars.
We flat out did that because of rentals. Like one of the guys who was a programmer on Lion King was like, yeah, I had to make level 2 or 3 like super confusing and hard on purpose so that people wouldn't rent the game and beat it in a weekend and never purchase it. Like it became this whole plot. Like games continued to be hard during the 16-bit era because they didn't want anyone to be able to beat it too easily, kind of thing. But Kirby was never like that. Kirby
Yeah,
was Kirby
I
was
never
actually never.
really heard anything about a Kirby game being ever really that difficult. Honestly,
One of
maybe
my
the older
fondest,
ones a little like,
honestly,
but
one of my fondest memories is my mom came home one day and she showed up with Kirby's Adventure for the NES.
oh, nice.
She had gone out of her way to rent. She saw it and she rented it herself, and I couldn't believe it. But the thing is, it was like right in the middle of like our family moving, from house to house. So my life was kind of like upended, as a kid. So I think my mom kind of felt bad a little bit that like, oh, you're going through all this like upheaval and moving, and we're gonna have to go to like a different school and all this other stuff. So she's like, I know he's played Kirby's, and this was the second Kirby game. Like she knew I had played on some friend at school's Game Boy game, Kirby's Dream Land. So she saw, oh, right as it came out, a Kirby's Adventure for sale at the warehouse. If anyone even, you have to be really old to know what that is.
Warehouse. Oh my god. Oh god. So many people are like, "What the hell? What warehouse? Which one?"
Most people don't even know what that
it.
is.
They don't know what it is.
They don't even know what that is. It was an electronics and movie rental store from.
I think I forgot about that till you said
3,000 years ago.
Oh my gosh! Holy shit!
She rented Kirby's Adventure, and I was like super pumped because I didn't know the game existed. It was brand new, and and if you didn't go and read your Game Pro or EGM, in the magazine aisle while Mom did the rest of the shopping in the marketplace, you didn't know a game existed back then because there was no internet. I don't just mean like, oh well, you were too poor to have a computer. I'm like, no, nobody had internet back then. It didn't exist. So, yeah, like I was like, what? A brand new Kirby game? And it was for NES, and it was really, really, really good. And I don't even know if I beat it or not on that rental, but like I remember playing the crap out of it, and just really loving it. And that was a really late NES because like we were too poor to have a Super NES until much later. So, so yeah, I had this. I was floating around on NES until darn near the Super NES itself was dead. But Kirby's Adventure came out and it was just fantastic. And all it really did, because like the original Dreamland was 4 levels and done. Like you could as a kid you could beat it in a half hour. But Kirby's Adventure had like a bunch of levels. Like I don't even remember how many, but a lot. Huge. It was a huge expansion. And it kind of sort of became like this thing where like you would always get a Kirby game at the end of a system's life. You had Kirby's Adventure at the end of the NES, and then you had Kirby's Dream Land 3 at the end of the Super NES, and then you had Kirby 64, pretty close to the end of the N64 for Kirby 64, and they were trying to make Kirby's Return to Dreamland for GameCube, and it didn't show up until the very end of the Wii's life because it came out after Epic Yarn, which was another game entirely before it got changed to a Kirby game. So yeah, Return to Dream, the 4-player one, which was really good on the Wii, and then it was really the Switch that kind of bucked that trend and was like, hey, our big platformer Kirby game is coming out within like a year or two after the system came out for Star Allies. So that was like, the big change because like Planet Robobot, or like 2 3DS Kirby games, I think, but yeah, also on 3DS, pretty late into the 3DS life. So yeah, like here we are now. We have Kirby in the Forgotten Land. It's going 3D first time, and according to Nintendo, we're in the middle of the Switch's life.
Yeah.
Not the end. So we're dead set in the middle, and now that we're getting our second platformer Kirby game on the system. So very interesting in that sense, where like it used to feel like Kirby was just sort of like trotted out at the end. It was almost like signaling the end of a system's life with a nice, fun little Kirby romp to say goodnight, on this system with, but not so this time. And I'm kind of glad, because I like Kirby games.
Yeah, they've definitely been picking them up, as you said, like Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot on 3DS, getting like 2 pretty, like especially Robobot. People love that one. I still need to play that. I have it. It's still not it's still in the shrink wrap.
It's very highly
Star
regarded.
Allies and now Forgotten Land, and that's what I want to like. To kind of like wind down the Kirby talk here. I want to ask you your final thoughts on the demo. Are you gonna like get the full game? Are you gonna play through the full game? And did the demo change your thought on that at all? Did it move the needle one way or the other?
Actually, yes. I would say I was kind of looking forward to it anyways. I was like, I like a good Kirby game. I actually never ended up buying Star Allies for whatever
Yeah,
reason. I think because there was so much reliance on having allies. Like you couldn't
yeah,
just solo Kirby. It's like, okay, well, if you're playing it single player, you still have to have a gaggle of, Kirby enemies always behind you at all times. And just for whatever reason, that's just sort of like, I just kind of like shrugged it off. But this demo, I was like, I was looking forward to it already. But this demo to me was absolutely gonna buy this day one, because it just, gosh darn, it's so darn cute. On one hand, but like I I've been playing a lot of, obviously, like everyone else on planet Earth. I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring, and I am starting to miss color in my video games.
uh, nice. You just
So
haven't been to the right areas yet, Simmons. No, I was kidding.
right, so I mean, it's like as beautiful as that game is, it's like each area is its own color. I'm like, here's like the dark, gray, green and gray area at the beginning, and then like it goes, here's the yellow area
Yeah,
where
here's the
everything's
bright
yellow.
yellow area.
Here's the area where everything's red. Here's everything where everything's white and gray. And I get it, it's fine, whatever. But like I do miss color in my video game. So this is turning into a very nice palette cleanser, and it looks clean and crisp. It doesn't look all smeared and smudged like in a sort of other unfortunate Platinum Games game.
Oh man.
But this seems to be a trend. I know this is very, very recency bias, but like we just got past that state of play, and I'm like, man, there's some other games that are coming out that have a very not great smudged like art look to them, and I'm like, what is going
I
on?
feel like it's yeah. I think it's like the budget development. Like these companies want to keep making more games to churn. Like because development costs for their bigger titles is take so long. This is the compromise. You cannot make a game that looks anywhere near like AAA good in a short amount of
Mhm.
time anymore. So you got to make these kind of lower fidelity games, unfortunately, and you try and pick like what was it, Valkyrie Elysium was one of the new ones just announced, and it's got like that weird like outlining on every one of the
Yeah.
characters, and it's like, oh, is this because the game's not very high fidelity, or what are they doing here? Like, but I mean, it's coming out like it hits the PS4, PS5 at least, and it's like, oh well, I
Yeah,
mean,
there's part of me that's kind of like, even if it's not hyper detailed, like just being very crisp, even if it's not hyper detailed, I think kind of to me can go a long way. And I think Kirby's doing that well, where it's like, look, it's a
yeah,
Kirby game. And they've tried a lot of different looks for, like, there was the Rainbow Curse where he's made of clay, right?
mm-hmm.
And then there's been other stuff like that. And then Epic Yarn, of course, he's made of yarn and stuff. But I think there's something to be said for just an honest to God, crisp, clean, clear, colorful look that you get with like Return to Dreamland and kind of with Star Allies, and with this, where it's like it's kind of nice to just have a game that's like the art direction is just make it colorful and clear and concise, um, and it works. I've never really, anytime any developer, of any caliber has ever tried to do a sort of impressionistic 3D, not 2D, but in 3D. I mean, maybe Okami, but like other than Okami, like, man, trying to make anything work with like an impressionistic painterly style just never comes out right for whatever.
Valkyria Chronicles, but that was like the Canvas engine. That was like the
And that was
that
good
was
too.
yeah,
I that
but it
did.
wasn't even like the full game. Like in game, it wasn't always doing that either. Like
Yeah.
because it just did like the edges sometimes. But I
To
yeah
me,
no,
that just feels more like they tried to put like pencil strokes
yeah.
in there. Like when
What
I'm,
was
I'm kind of
there was a Square Enix or something game that like years ago, or maybe it was an indie game that tried to do exactly what we were talking about, and I forgot it now.
there
Um,
was the
it had like a character that looked like the He-Man mage character or
are-
whatever.
well, there was
Or
El Shaddai, Ascension of the
no,
Metatron.
I know El Shaddai. I actually reviewed it back at Game Trailers, and I got the remaster re-release. That is a unique one. This was something different. This was something else. I can't believe I forgot it. But anyway, I think Brad actually reviewed this game. Might have had a French title. Starts with a D. But anyway, I can look it up on the side. But anyway, you continue with your point. Sorry.
Well, yeah, it seems to me like a lot of times when like someone tries to like do something that's impressionistic style, it almost always kind of like comes out looking weird in 3D just the way the nature of camera and polygons and rendering techniques that just it just comes out always looking weird and kind of like gives it like a sort of smudged over look. So I'm kind of happy to see that, like, Nintendo is always artistic. They always have good art direction on their games most of the time. And I'm
Yeah.
happy to see like they're not really falling into this weird trap of like, we need to make it look weird for the sake of looking weird kind of thing, where it's not really like serving, any. I mean, you could argue they've kind of done that in the past, but like with Kirby here, I like how clean and concise it looks, and even like Splatoon would be a good example of like they could have easily tried to do a sort of like brushstroke splattered ink look to everything, but they didn't. And I think that's to the benefit of just knowing when and where not to do something for an art style for a game. So Kirby's doing basically what it needs to do, which is like, the Switch is old. It's 5 years old now. It ain't getting any younger. Games ain't gonna be looking any better on it. Uh, you know, but it's using art, the art direction and the colors to its fullest advantage. Even though, again, it's not 60. That's kind of a bummer, but it doesn't hurt as bad in Kirby because of how the pacing of a Kirby game is. Kirby is not and has never been a precision platformer. It's a platformer, but it is not precision platformer. Not really, not usually. And this is no different. So it being 30 hurts less for Forgotten Land, because I'm like, it's not trying to be some momentum based thing. Like Tropical Freeze is a game where it's like, that game needs to be 60. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
know, like, I know Returns was 30 on 3DS, but like, I wouldn't even entertain the thought
Yeah.
myself personally. I'm very much kind of like, oh no, that's a precision platformer with a very tight momentum based gameplay. Like it absolutely needs all those frames, needs those 60 delicious frames. Where Kirby is like, he's not, you're not navigating, through a wall of like rapid fire shots. You're not playing Returnal here. You're just you're playing Kirby. You're kind of enjoying, you're enjoying your time in this world, and doing the things he's doing, and not at any sort of like rapid pace. The car, I guess, but even then the car feels, it's not F-Zero, when you're
No,
driving around as the
it's
car.
fine. It not being 60 wasn't really bothering me when I was playing it. And I think that's what matters the most, is when I'm playing it. If it's not impacting anything noticeably to me, it's
Yeah.
fine. And as
Did
you
you
said,
did
it's
I was gonna say, did you notice though? It does a technique a lot of games are using, where like, if an enemy's far enough in the distance, they
yes. Okay, I was gonna bring that up. It does do the like, yeah, it does do the like the lower animate, like, yeah, lower polygon count, like it's like lower animation. So it's like, hey,
yeah, everything in the foreground is like season finale episode of a Studio Trigger anime, and everything in the background is like episode 2
the
of Studio
worst
Trigger.
example of this. I know this happens in games all the time. I know this is a common thing. The most amazing one ever to me was in Resident Evil Mercenaries for 3DS.
Oh yeah.
If you have a chance to ever play Mercenaries on 3DS, chat, just use the sniper rifle and zoom in on anything more than like 5 feet away from you. Enjoy. You can thank me later. It was like, oh my, like that's where it's a problem. This, it's like, there's, as you said, this game's colorful. Everything's kind of in your face. So like, so far through the demo, it wasn't really that big of an issue to me. Because there wasn't a lot that far in the distance at times. Because even like the buildings, they kind of do like they do the like the focus thing, where they're out of focus in
Yeah.
the distance, so that you can just be focused on what is in the foreground right in front of your face. So as long as they keep that up, and it looks like from all like the trailer footage I've seen that pretty much shows some of the later environments and levels, it looks like, because they're doing that kind of forced camera angle as well, they know what to show for the most part. And I don't think it's really going
Yeah.
to be that big of an issue. But you're right. Fair to call it out that it is something that is going on in the game on a technical level.
The weirdest thing to me is on the car, when you go across the bridge to go to like the loading part,
Yeah.
you run through some boulders and you knock them over. What's interesting is that the boulders actually load higher quality assets like right before the car hits them, and because it's going at a certain speed. And I'm like, the strangest part about it is that like it doesn't look low res. and then it just gets higher. It just gets like a slightly better
Oh,
version.
yeah.
So like the distance, the texture quality, like the LOD or whatever, it's like it looks fine, and then all of a sudden, like, no, wait, let me make it look a tiny bit better, and you crash through it. It's like I'm kind of like you didn't even really need to actually have a higher quality asset there because like the quote unquote lower quality one actually looked fine because it's a rock, it's not moving. Um, but I just thought that was really funny. I noticed that a couple times in the demo where like you when you're driving across the little
Yeah.
Golden Gate Bridge thing, like it loads a slightly higher quality version of every boulder before he runs through it. And I'm like, oh, well, what's the point? Like the original looked fine. It looked better than Final Fantasy VII Remake's door.
Oh.
I'll give you, I'll give you
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I think yeah, it's fine, and who knows like how frequent will it be. But I mean, I think some of that's just like necessary because like the power ups. We only got like a small taste of the power ups in this demo, even with mouthful mode, because the
Yeah,
overview trailer as well as the in game demo trailer, man, there's some like really insane power ups you see later. Like there's one you turn like a tornado into like it's like almost like Katamari where you like actually there is an ability that looks like the Katamari where you like
yeah,
roll and
the
like pick up
needler
stuff.
one.
Yeah, and then there's like they literally just taking Breath of the Wild's ability before Breath of the Wild is out. The time stop. It's like it does like the same color like chromatic effect, and then
Well,
like
I
yeah,
wonder if it's maybe that's the reason it's 30. Like the demo doesn't really show off a good reason why it needed to be 30, but maybe we're not taking into account stuff like the upgraded needler abilities, or like you start Katamari Damacy across the whole and you picking up all this stuff, so you have a giant blob of stuff rolling constantly. Like maybe there are effects and stuff for like the upgrades that, yeah, this would probably chunk up choke the Switch hardware pretty good. Like, I don't know if you remember. I don't even know what the default frame rate, but there's Ultimate Alliance 3. I don't know if you ever played that
oh
on the Switch.
yes,
And
yes,
it's kind of funny when you do like the your strongest attacks or you do team up attacks, and the
mm-hmm,
whole system just basically dies.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and and it's kind of funny to see it because it feels like, yeah, I'm choking the system like myself. I'm gonna overload it, and it's almost got like maybe Nintendo kind of wants to avoid that, where they're like, we're not going to do that. We're not going to let you like drop the system down to 5 frames, but like on purpose. So maybe that's why. Maybe there's more to it, with some of the other later
Yeah, baby.
upgraded abilities that yeah, it kind of needed to be 30 because we're going to do some effects here they're going to otherwise choke the life out of this system. So um,
Yeah, maybe we'll get a behind the scenes sometime. They can explain like all the like crazy stuff that like they might not have noticed, but
maybe
there's
Hal's always like so quiet when you really think about it.
that's true.
Can you ever remember a time where Hal did a developer diary?
No, like
Yeah, the most
yeah,
forthcoming person is Sakurai, and he was talkative after he left.
that's very true. But I mean, yeah, like I get it. Like Nintendo will always favor stability. They want their games to be quality. Well, so if you're playing it, there's not gonna be any issues. But at the same time, people are gonna look at this and be like, "How is this game not 60 frames?" I get it. I get what people are coming from. It's just sometimes there's like more to it. Like maybe like Digital Foundries can break it down when they get their hands on the full version. They're like, this is really why it needs to be at this, or maybe there really is this like they could have pushed 60, but maybe there are a few areas that they didn't want to compromise and not have it
I
be like lock 60.
I will say a stable frame rate's better than an uncapped frame rate.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
Even if it's like 60 some of the time or most of the time, but then sometimes it's not, or like a significant chunk of time it's going to be around 40, an unstable 40, 45. It's like I'd rather have stable 30 than uncapped unstable
Mm-hmm.
60. So there is that.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I'm also definitely looking forward. Was definitely looking forward to this game before the demo. The demo alleviated any of the concerns I had about the game. It definitely impressed me in the right ways. And then actually watching the last trailer they put out along with the demo, showing how much more stuff there is to do. It's not just like, oh, go to level, fight a boss. Like there's like a Waddle Dee town with mini
Yeah.
games and all this extra stuff. It looks like there's a decent amount of extra stuff to do, and it's a little bit more fleshed out. So I'm very sold on it, and hopefully this is the Kirby game that fully wins me over and makes me a believer out of Kirby, since I've just been so bad at not like buying into the Kirby train for so long. It's not that I think the games are bad or anything. Just they've never really spoken or
I think
interested me,
it's
unfortunately.
hard to but I think it's right there. Like it's hard to hate Kirby,
Yeah, I don't hate
but
Kirby.
not everyone's it's not gonna be for everyone, and not everyone's gonna be into it. But I feel like it's hard to dislike it generally. I just
Oh yeah,
uh it's just kind of one of those things like I like Kirby games a lot. But at the end of the day, again, it's like when, like when Nintendo's announcing a new system, I'm not sitting there like, come on, show me the new Kirby game. What does Kirby look like on this thing? What does Kirby look like on the new hardware? What is a new one? It's like no, it's just kind of like every time Nintendo introduces a new Kirby, I was like, oh, what a nice surprise. It's like, oh, that's great. Yeah, that's good. A new Kirby game. Like it's always just sort of like a nice, cozy little extra treat to me is when they announce a new Kirby game. It's not like oh god, I'm not waiting on bated breath to see what new system, like what does Zelda look like, what does Metroid look like, what are we getting, like where's the next big it thing that's gonna like really demonstrate and whatever. No, Kirby is just kind of like, man, it don't matter what the hardware is. It's just kind of like Kirby's gonna be there. It's gonna be colorful. It's probably gonna be like a good time, fun to play, so but I do like what you said though. I do like how there does seem to be a lot of meat to the bone on this Kirby game, where it's like with the Wildy Town and the mini games and the little collectibles and whatever and stuff. So it definitely doesn't just seem like a sort of like you romp through the levels and then you return it to the red box. I do like how it does seem to be this definitely looks like a game you would enjoy having on your system, and maybe like mindlessly goofing off and go fishing with
it's
Kirby and Waldies or whatever. So
for me, it's the perfect game to come off of Elden Ring too. After
yeah,
playing so much Elden Ring,
the palette
the palate cleanser here. So yeah, definitely sold. Coming if you didn't know, it's coming March 25th, 2022. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Thank you, Simmons, for joining me to talk some about the Kirby impressions and what we're looking forward to. And I'm on the docket actually for our listeners. I'm on the docket to review this, but Nintendo doesn't send us games early anymore, so we'll get around to it. It's also coming out in the middle of EZX, our week-long event that's starting on March 21st. Let me make sure that's correct. Monday, March 21st is the first day of that. Yes, that is correct. So Kirby comes out the Friday, our last big day of that event, so I'm probably going to be pretty tired, and we'll find some time to jump into it, so fortunately that review will be a little bit late after its release. I want to give some shout outs to some of our highest tier patrons for the month of March 2022. So shout outs to El Thanis, Greg the Dark Knight Kettering, Caleb Togi Crawford, Nick, Raymond Wheeler III, and Zatfundud. Thank you so much. Shout out. And Simmons, as usual, for our listeners and viewers, where can they check out your... Sorry, they want to follow you to check out more of your content that you got coming up.
I run sort of archival and whatever whenever I get around to doing opinion videos on youtube.com/yo video games. And if you want to see me streaming, I'm more of a variety streamer. I stream on twitch.tv/assistmedoom. Every Monday I do a Monolith Soft game, and the big thing this year is I am playing through every single Xeno game from Gears to Blade on Mondays, leading up to the release of 3. So every Monday you can check that out at twitch.tv/assistmedoom.
Nice. Just reminded me I need to probably get my butt into Gear and start replaying those as well in preparation for
just play 2.
I meant like 1, 2, and Torna. Definitely, definitely Torna, since I've not actually played through Torna yet. So
there's a lot. I'm going hardcore into like every RPG. Oh my god.
Hey,
so I'm not recommending that for most people, because I'm like, that's a lot of game, a lot of content. So,
but yeah, September. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Be on the lookout for it. But yeah, thank you again, Simmons, for joining me. And until next time, everybody, may the way of the hero lead to the Triforce.